Um, cool. Okay, welcome to another chill stream. So it's going to be like the last one. There's no like real rhyme or rhythm to it. Like if anyone wants to put anything in the chat to talk about, we can talk about that. I've got some stuff that's been going on that we can look at, react to, talk about. You'll probably guess what it is from the thumbnail. And yeah, that's about it. Is what the stream is going to be. So you should be able to see at the top of the chat and in the description there's a pinned comment with a link. By no means is it mandatory or anything like that, but if you happen to want to support the stream or send a donation with your question, then please feel free to do that, but no pressure at all. If you want to just put a question in the chat, then just do that, and like I'll get to it. I'll be checking the chat, so I should see your questions and stuff come in, or just anything you want to say. Cool. Yeah. So you will probably tell from the thumbnail that the things that I've got lined up for today are I think they're each quite short videos. So there's if anyone doesn't know, there is the Childfree convention. I always call it the conference, but apparently its convention is going on. The first day was yesterday, second day is today, and they basically just go into all of the things to do with being child free. So I'm assuming anyone who's sort of like tuning into this will generally know like the differences, but just for anyone that doesn't. So basically the child free convention is all about being child free, and being child free is basically what it says on the tin. So it basically just means you are free from children. You don't have children. That can be for all matter of reasons. It could be, it could be financial. It could be environmental reasons. It could be purely personal preference. Maybe you just don't feel like raising a child. It could encompass anti-natalists as well. It doesn't necessarily encompass anti-natalists, but it basically just means someone who doesn't have children. Generally, it means by choice, so child-free by choice. If you don't have children, but you wanted children, say like you're just naturally infertile, then people would refer you to like as childless. But yeah, basically it just means like you don't have children on purpose. And the reason I say that it only overlaps and isn't the same as anti-natalism is because anti-natalism is more, it's like an ethical belief, right? So it's like it's about being opposed to the creation of new sentient life that can suffer, but it doesn't mean that you're child free. So an anti-natalist may adopt, or an anti-natalist may have had kids and then come to the realization and be anti-natalist. All of this sort of stuff, right? Anyway, so that's on the convention. They got loads of stuff going on, but all to do with child free. But they had one section on anti-natalism, which Mark James Haraj and Amanda Sukanik were speaking on, and that's about 20 minutes. So we'll watch that and react to that. The second thing was Bill Maher. He's like a social commentator from America. I think it's fair to, I guess it's fair to say he's like left leaning. I think he strikes me as sort of like the classical liberal type, which I think, so like in the UK, when we say liberal or like classical liberal, we mean like, individualism, freedom of the market, that sort of stuff. Who would be like so they would maybe be fans of people like Adam Smith or what's his name, John Stuart Mill, people like that. But in America, liberal tends to mean like progressive, so they call it libertarian there. I think that's how it translates. I don't know if he'd call himself like a libertarian or whatever, but he strikes me as that sort of persuasion, but maybe left-leaning. Anyway, he's like a commentator, does things. He's like very famous. I think like if you look him up, you'd recognize him, called Bill Maher. Anyway, so he did a section recently. He does these things called like New Rule, where he just takes a topic and like does his opinion on it. And Alden just put in the chat that you enjoy your his criticisms of religion. He's done a lot about religion. He's had, I believe, I believe that was why I may be getting this wrong, but I think that's why Sam Harris became like a lot more well known than he is, because I think he just used to be like an academic, and he's a neuroscientist, I think, by trade. But now Sam Harris does a oh well, I've just had something. Well, I don't want to read out their real name in case they don't want me to, but someone has just sent in a $5 tip, and I'm guessing that is. I'm going to read their name from the YouTube chat just because I don't want to do the one that's come up here in case they don't want me to. And I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Lucio or Lucio. But yeah, thank you so much. I'll read out your well, actually I don't know if you want me to read out your thing. It doesn't incriminate you or anything in any, not incriminate, but it doesn't like reveal any like personal stuff. Okay, you're saying I can now. You just got me out of a tight spot. And there's a delay on the stream as well, so I have to kind of like mumble for a while until you hear it, which is like 15 seconds later or something. And then like I'm like, cool. So Lucio, I'm guessing, I don't know if that's how you say it, but I hope you're doing well. I don't do much AN activism lately, but I did some animal rights stuff with vegan street outreach and helped out at a sanctuary yesterday, at least. No groups like Stop Having Kids and such in France. That's cool. So, well, first of all, before I respond to what you said, like, thank you so much. It's like really appreciated. And like any tips or anything people send is just going to go like straight into doing more stuff here. I'm not like siphoning it off and sending it to other places. So like I've got a full-time job, so like that covers me for other stuff. Like all the money that comes from YouTube will just go into YouTube. But yeah, I mean, yes. Well, I was about to bring up friend Alden. So basically, Lucio was saying in here that they've been to a sanctuary yesterday, like volunteering, helped out, and that is basically what I do now. I don't really do much. I did a lot of so I'll cover anti-natalism because that's going to be quicker. I've never really done anti-natalist activism before. Like I was in that viral video. I guess you could call that activism, but yeah, I haven't really done any anti-natalist activism before. Like to be honest, like I talk about it pretty much every day. Like I will discuss and debate people on anti-natalism pretty much every day. I'm going to talk about this a bit later, but I was literally doing that basically all of this morning as well. But it's just not like I don't upload it to YouTube or anything like that because it's usually in person or over text or whatever. But anyway, so yeah, I don't really do much anti-natalism stuff either. It's just this YouTube channel really. But in terms of animal rights, like pre-lockdown and all of that sort of stuff, I did like animal rights activism like I don't know if I'd say most days, but like multiple times a week. I was like very heavily involved there. And there was at one point of about maybe like 4, 5, 6 months where I was full time. And yeah, then during the lockdowns and everything, I like fell out of it, didn't really do anything at all, like even online stuff really. And then since we've come out of lockdown and life has gone somewhat back to normal, or however you want to put it, I've not really done anything. I've kind of become a bit like I don't really know what to do in terms of activism. Like I used to do a lot of street outreach. I don't really know how much that does. Like I'm talking about in terms of effectiveness. Like I don't know how much it does, and I often just feel like I'm talking to a brick wall. So I lost the willpower to do that. So the only real like animal rights stuff I do now, activism wise, is I do occasionally go to stuff when like a friend has organized something and I want to show support and encouragement. Like I'll go to show support and encouragement. But I don't go thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to make a real change today. The one thing I do still is go to sanctuaries and help out. So the main one I go to is called Friend, which Alden mentioned in the chat. And I'm pretty sure Alden and I have been to Friend together. Like Alden and I have met like many times, but I'm pretty sure we have been to Friend together like multiple times. And yeah, I still go to Friend at one point fairly regularly, like semi-regularly now. I'm going in 2 weeks. I'm organising a volunteer trip there, so that's in about 2 weeks. And then later in September, Friend have got like a summer equinox, which I believe is the date that is midway between the summer and the winter solstice, which are the longest and shortest days, and then the equinox is midpoint between those two. And Friend is having like a little, I don't know what you'd call it, like they call it party. It seems like a mini festival. It's basically like you camp there, there will be music and stuff like that. But like not too loud, presumably, because obviously all the animals are there and stuff. But yeah, so yeah, I do. It's good to hear that you do stuff at sanctuaries. I think sanctuaries are really cool, and yeah, you actually get to see like the tangible difference you make for those animals as well. And it's like, you know, it's like beneficial to you as well. Like I find it like nice to be around the animals and stuff like that. Cool, but yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Lucio. So I can't remember what I was talking about before. Oh yeah, I was doing Bill Maher, wasn't I? Anyway, so he did a section talking about population decline, and yeah, I haven't actually watched it, so I was going to watch it for the first time on here and react live to it. I've seen it posted around in anti-natalist Facebook groups, and I think it comes from like an environmental stance. So that'll be interesting to see. And then the third thing, which is a bit different, but I thought it'd be interesting, is I don't know if I'm assuming like a lot of people do, is Yuval Noah Harari. So I'm actually reading. It's over there, so I'm not gonna get up. But I'm rereading his book *Sapiens* at the moment. So if anyone doesn't know, Yuval is a academic intellectual. I don't know how he'd describe himself. Who from Israel, and I think he's probably most well known for writing *Sapiens*, which is a book. It's like a brief history of the human species and the sort of the cultural development of us and societal development. And yeah, he independent of that book, he also did a sequel as well, Homo Deus, which I haven't read, which I'm going to read after *Sapiens*. But independent of those books, I think those books kind of launched him. But now he does loads of general talks and discussions. I wouldn't call them debates. He does like talks and discussions with people around sort of like macro level meta-narrative stuff. And yeah, I watched one the other day between him and I don't actually know how to properly say this guy's name. Slavoj Žižek, I think is how you say it. I don't know where he's from, but if you look him up, his first name is spelled Slavoj, I think. And when you put that in, like he will come up, because how many people have that name, or at least famous people? And they were talking about like, should we is nature good, or should we see nature as like virtuous or something? I can't remember. I don't know how to like properly word it, but it was around that sort of topic, and that was really interesting. But yeah, Yuval, very intelligent guy. He's vegan for ethical reasons. I've seen him talk about procreation. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say he's anti-natalist, but he is not having children himself. Maybe one of the reasons for that is that he's gay. So him and his husband, I guess with the use of technology, you could have like biological kids, but they would like opt for adoption. But apparently in Israel, it's very hard for gay couples to adopt, so they just don't have kids at all. But I've seen in an interview with him that the woman interviewing him asked him directly, like, why do you not have kids, or something like that. And Yuval says something along the lines of, well, the world is a complete mess, and I don't fully understand this mess, and I don't want to bring someone into this mess that I don't understand. And so I'm going to, just not create them. And he said that thinking about bringing someone into this mess and the hardships that exist here and being responsible for their death. So he's made the connection there of when you create someone, you are at least significantly responsible for the death, if not wholly. I don't know if I'd go to say wholly, but You're like significantly responsible for their death. Yeah, he says all of that. So that kind of gives it like a anti-natalist slant. I don't know if he'd give himself that label, or if he'd like, I don't know if he's come across the label. I assume, given he's a pretty well-read guy, I think he would have come across like David Benatar at least and stuff like that. So I'm sure he's at least somewhat exposed to the ideas. But yeah, Yuval, very intelligent guy. I would say at the moment he's probably the intellectual that I've been watching the most, just because I find him so interesting. Anyway, the reason I'm talking about him is because the last video that I wanted to get to is called Once Upon an AI, which is produced by Yuval and a bunch of other organizations. And essentially what they've done is they've written a story about the development of AI and the transition from carbon-based life form to, I don't know what you want to call it, digital-based life forms or whatever, like digital sentience. They wrote this story and then they fed it into an artificial intelligence that generates artwork from the words you put in. And so they have someone read out the story with music to it, and as the story goes on, the artwork appears that the AI for each of those sentences, if that makes sense. You'll get it when we watch it. But the reason I wanted to do that as well is because I think AI is going to become a more important topic for anti-natalism, because obviously at the moment the only mechanism, as far as I'm aware, I think anyway, of bringing new sentient beings into existence is procreation. But in the future, the dominant way could become just through creating like digital sentience. I don't know what you'd call that, but like through AI. So I think this is like it's like quite a interesting video to mark the progress that's being made towards that. And when I say progress, I don't necessarily mean in a good way, because I would find it unfortunate that digital sentience would be created just as biological, but I mean like a neutral way of saying progress. I think you get what I mean. Anyway, so before we go any further, so Lucio's just put in the chat, one of my adopted baby tortoises, or tortoises, I don't actually know how to say tortoises or tortoises, is sleeping next to me right now. I might adopt kids later, but all I have now are tortoises. He acknowledged birth is indirect murder. Yeah, he did. Let me actually, what I can do is I will get up whilst I'm just talking, I'll get up the interview I'm talking about, and I'll put the link in the chat so you can see. It's with this woman, this German woman. She like interviews people about, she gets them to sorry, I'm really bad at multitasking. So she basically asks them to suggest to bring clips to the interview, and asks them to and then they play them in the interview and get the person to talk about that's the link I've just put in the chat. So and she gets them to talk about like the clips and why they have brought meaning to their life and stuff like that. And it's right near the end it's right near the end of the interview that they talk about procreation. But also, like, amazing that you've adopted a tortoise. Tortoise. I was talking to someone yesterday, I can't remember who was saying that they used to live with someone who had adopted a tortoise, and that tortoise was 140 years old and had been looked after by 7 families. Now, I don't know how long tortoises usually live for. I believed this girl when she told me. Maybe she was chatting shit. Maybe that's like very unrealistic that would have happened. But as far as I'm aware, tortoises do live pretty long, right? But I thought it would be really interesting. Like, this hasn't been done, but I thought it would be really interesting if like each family that had looked after the tortoise had done like a good high quality, or at least higher quality enough for the time, photo of the whole family with this tortoise to show the progression. Because obviously 140 years ago, it would have been black and white. It would have been a lot more grainy. They would have been wearing different clothes. It would be so interesting to see the progression of the families that looked after this tortoise until you get to the modern day, where it would be done with, a very high quality, probably with a smartphone. Or, they could do a sign of the times and do like a selfie with the whole family and the tortoise, just to show like how photography has changed over time. Like, selfies are like really big now, aren't they? But that made me sound like such an old person. selfies are really big now, aren't they? Jesus. Yeah, and then you're saying about how you might adopt kids later. Yeah, I'm like open to it. It really depends. Like if I'm in like a financially stable situation, I'd probably only do it if I was with like a long-term partner who wanted to do that as well. Both AI and digitalization of human brains are both very relevant to anti-natalism. Yeah, exactly, which is why I sort of wanted to watch this video. Herman tortoises, the ones I have, live up to 50, 60 other species can live longer. Galapagos can live up to 177 years in captivity. It's insane. Yeah, but I thought, that was my understanding as well, but I thought Galapagos, like the longer living tortoises, I thought were massive, whereas this tortoise is only maybe like this big or something, maybe as big as my head. And so, yeah, I don't know, but like, I don't know why she would lie or anything. I'm sure it's true. Anyway, so let's progress. So, yeah, I was like, when I first did the first live stream, I was saying that I aim to upload once a week on Tuesdays. I missed this Tuesday just gone. Forgive me for I have sinned. I've got something ready for next Tuesday. That was one of the reasons actually that I was thinking of doing this chill stream. One, because there's a bunch of stuff to react to, but also like I missed Tuesday, so I feel a bit bad. And yeah, I've got a video lined up for Tuesday. It's it's not going to be a super long one. It's only about like 15-20 minutes. And I won't say too much, but it features Nas Daily or Nas Daily. I don't actually know how you say the name of the channel, which you'll probably all know. If you don't know by name, you'll have seen some of the videos that channel produce. Yeah, very famous. Like, yeah, probably one of the most famous YouTube channels. Yeah. Cool. And I think that's basically it. There was going to be something else I was going to say, but I don't want to drag this out too long because there's actually one of the sessions at the Childfree convention that I want to go to later, which is at 6 o'clock my time, which is Childfree FIRE, which is Financial Independence Retire Early, which I wanted to go to. So I want to kind of round this off at least at like 15 minutes before that. So we've got about 2 hours, 45 minutes. But to be fair, I think like we'd be done way before that. Cool. Okay, so I can get to the other thing that I was going to say about later after the videos so that I know how much time we've gone through. Cool. I think that's about it. So let me, I think that's about it for like pleasantries and introduction. So let's go into the first one. Hopefully people can see that. Cool. So yeah, this is from day one of the Childfree convention, and this is they as far as I'm aware, there was only one section for the whole convention on anti-natalism, and this is it. So like I was saying before, it's Mark and Amanda, and they were both hosts of the Exploring Anti-Natalist podcast. Amanda still is. I think she's doing it on her own now. And Mark was and since left, and Mark does I'll link all these videos in the description after this is finished, and I will link Amanda and Mark's YouTube channels. Yeah, but let's just see if there's anything in the chat before we start this. I don't know if let me get to it later because I don't want to delay the videos anymore. But if people have questions or anything, just put it in the chat and I will have a look later. But let's go through a video now. Cool. And if it starts playing and you can't hear it, just put in the chat. Put in the chat whether you can hear it or not, because I think there shouldn't be any technical issues.
Hi everyone, I'm Lenora Fay. I am one of your co-modders for the Anti-Natalist channel. Quick thank you to our presenting sponsor, Childfree Media, our champion level sponsor, Childfree Wealth.
So it looks like you can hear. This is just a bit of a intro bit here. But basically, these two people are two of the organizers, I think.
The Age of the Child, a novel by Kristen Tetzi, and Wild Egg, a novel by Jennifer Flint.
And before we begin, we've got a little disclaimer to get out of the way. The opinions expressed within the content are solely the speakers and do not reflect the opinions and beliefs of the event or.
That's I think they put this disclaimer before everyone, so it's not just antinatalism, but it is just quite funny because I think like child free is obviously it's just like a behavior, I guess. It's just not having a kid, whether biological or adopted, right? But like I think antinatalism is seen like the more extreme ugly twin or whatever. So it's just funny that this disclaimer is put next to it.
It's affiliates. So let's get into the topic here. We are talking about antinatalism. Hello, welcome Amanda, welcome Mark. Thank you both for joining us today.
Greetings.
Hello, thank you so much for having us.
So let's just dive right in. Tell us about yourself. Mark, we'll begin with you.
Hi, I'm Mark Maharaj. I'm from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I am my parents are from Trinidad and Tobago. I studied IT in college, and I work as an administration. I work in administration in the not-for-profit sector. I'm an atheist, a vegan for about 9 years, and a philanthropic antinatalist for about 7 years. I was the creator and now retired co-host of the first antinatalism podcast, the Exploring Antinatalism podcast that Amanda now runs. I also run a philosophy YouTube channel called Question Mark Philosophy, where I interview other academic philosophers on a variety of topics, like hiking, spending time in nature with friends, and A24 films. And that's me.
Awesome. Amanda?
I think it's good, like in Mark's introduction there, that he mentions he's vegan as well, because I guess it's not like super relevant to like the child-free convention, but it's like a good thing to chuck in there because it makes people think like, oh, this guy is like a very, because Mark is like a, very intelligent, considered person. So maybe people listening are like, oh, this is a very intelligent, considered guy. Maybe I should look into veganism more.
You're up.
And Mark has been vegan, did he say 9 years? And for me, it's just coming up to 5. So Mark is a much better human than myself.
Yes, hi, I'm Amanda, also known as Old Fan. I am a 39-year-old child-free antinatalist ethicist from Chicago, Illinois. I am a sculptor and a filmmaker. I have an MFA from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and I've been producing antinatalist multimedia for about 11 years now. I am the host of the Exploring Anti-natalism podcast, running 3 years strong now. I've been involved with various antinatalist projects of all different kinds for a long, long time. I'm one of the founders of Anti-natalism International, which is a sort of proto-NGO dedicated to antinatalism. We do things like we just recently did a fundraiser. We do the Antinatalist Film Festival, as well as various other projects. And yeah, I'm just very happy to be with everybody here today.
Yeah, just on their introductions, they both mentioned the podcast, obviously, and then I think I mentioned it earlier, didn't I? The Exploring Anti-natalism podcast. If anyone hasn't listened to it, definitely go check it out. It's a very good podcast. Can't remember how many episodes there are now. I think it's something like 60. But yeah, like they've interviewed a lot of different people, really interesting stuff on there. Like you could like, if you started from number 1 now and just went through all of them, you would get a good, like, solid month or 2 months of listening to podcasts out of that. There's a lot of good stuff. And I think that was it.
So, first of all, what is antinatalism not? And we're going to start with Amanda on this question.
Okay, yeah. So honestly, this is a very, very hard question to answer because just about everything that I can tell you that I believe antinatalism is or isn't, there's somebody out there, there's some antinatalist that will completely disagree with me and tell you, no, it is this or it isn't this. So there's a huge amount of disagreement amongst antinatalists about what in fact we are and what it is that we believe. I can tell you what I believe it to be. But before I do that, I will say, one thing I can definitely say that it is not, that there is an enormous amount of agreement that it is not, that it is not eugenics. We're not trying to create a type of person. It is not against a type of human. It is not trying to weed out traits. It is a philosophical stance against procreation.
Yeah, it's I think that's obviously an important point for Amanda to make. I honestly, in my interactions with people, I don't think I've ever had anyone like get confused about that. It may be like it may be that in different cultures people receive things differently. So maybe just the fact that I mainly talk to English people about it. Maybe eugenics isn't the first thing that comes to their mind. I don't know, but maybe in a different culture, people would be like, they'd see anti-natalism and be like, and link that to eugenics for some reason. I have seen in one of the, well, at least one of Stop Having Kids videos on their YouTube channel, someone accuses them of racism. I think maybe they were talking about like as in maybe they thought that Stop Having Kids was like promoting one specific race not to have kids. I'm not really sure. I don't know. I don't really know how they got to the conclusion that Stop Having Kids is spreading a racist message. But yeah, it's just pretty simple. It's like if we're saying that no one should be doing it, how can it be eugenics or racism or something like that? Because the message applies equally to everyone. It's just like no one should be doing it. We're critical of everyone who does it, independent of their like characteristics, whether they are male, female, whatever race they are, any religion, their income, all of this sort of stuff. But I guess it is like a important not disclaimer, caveat, I don't know what you'd call it on there. Like some other ones I would add, I don't know if Amanda is, well, let's let Amanda finish, and then if she doesn't mention any more, then I'll add some on what I think it isn't.
That can apply to all sentience. Sometimes it does not. So anti-natalism is an ancient and evolving philosophical position that has, over the last 10 years or so, grown into a movement, a social movement that is against the creation of new suffering entities, be they human, animal, or perhaps artificial sentience, if that were to become a thing. Which places a positive value on extinction through non-procreation. But again, huge disagreements all around.
You can say that again about the disagreement. So I guess what were we saying about what anti-natalism isn't? Yeah, I guess a few things that I would add is that it isn't about controlling women. I've seen some people get it confused with that. They think that it is. I'm guessing the confusion comes because women carry the child, obviously, and so I think sometimes when you criticize procreation, people think of pregnancy. They like zoom in on pregnancy, maybe. So I don't know. Maybe they're then like, pregnancy, women. Therefore, anti-natalism is trying to control women or whatever, or control their choices. I can see where people are coming from. Like historically, women's choices have been controlled, in a variety of ways, and depending on where you are, to varying degrees, it still is in the world, or they are still in the world. But so I can see the sensitivity there, but yeah, I just don't see how. Yeah, I can see the sensitivity people have, but I just don't see how they get from, we should think more critically about procreation to you're trying to control women. I don't get that leap. The other one I would say is that anti-natalism is not like anti-child or child hatred or anything like that. Now, we all need to be honest. There are a lot of people, I don't know how significant a proportion it is. I'm hoping it's a minority, but there is a proportion of anti-natalists that do like hate kids or dislike them or whatever, which again, I don't get it, but people just, I don't get why these people do this. I think it's a silly belief and position to have. You can personally like not get on with kids or kind of find them annoying, but like whatever, just avoid them. Keep it to yourself. You don't need to spread like animus towards kids. Like it's not their fault they were born. It's not their fault, they're what age they are. It's not, they haven't fully developed mentally, socially, so they don't necessarily understand the social nuances. They might not understand when they're annoying you, all of this sort of stuff. You can't blame them. Yeah, I just don't get the child hatred as well. But yeah, I would add those two things. Maybe I'm missing some others. Maybe there's some other stuff that I'm missing. But yeah.
All right, Mark, your answer.
Yeah, so there are a lot of misconceptions online, especially if you Google the term and go into different communities. And I'd say that it's not what it is a philosophical belief system, and it's becoming a social movement. It's an ethical stance. It's not a depression or suicide cult. And I think one other misconception is not all antinatalists are child free. You can be antinatalist and say adopt a child. We are not all antinatalist for the environmental overpopulation reasons. There are multiple reasons to be antinatalist. And as Amanda mentioned, it's not eugenics. Not all of us are incels or MGTOW or red pill or black pill or whatever other terminology the manosphere is producing. Not all of us. Amanda's an F-list. I'm not an F-list, so not all of us are F-lists. Not all of us are utilitarians or primordialists. Some antinatalists are human-centric only, and some are sentiocentric. So I think those are some of the divides. Yeah.
And that's a whole lot of terminology. You guys are clearing a lot of air. So where do you personally fall on the antinatalism spectrum, so to speak? Amanda, go ahead.
Sure.
So I think I think for some reason the stream is being kind of laggy. I'm not really sure why it's doing that. Let me just try and figure this out. Can you still hear me all right? Is it just the visuals that are not working too well? If anyone could just let me know in the chat. Can anyone... maybe people can't hear me. All right, well, while I'm waiting for people to let me know in the chat, I'll just I'll carry on and wait, if someone could just let me know in the chat if they can actually still hear the stream. Anyone? Okay, maybe the stream... Has it cut out? Okay, you can still hear me. Maybe it's just the visuals. Okay, well, I guess let's just let's persist, because the visuals, at least for this one, are not really that important. And let's hope it gets better. But yeah, I don't know why it's laggy. I don't know why it's doing this. Let me check the stream. Yeah, why is it doing this? Yeah, I can see. Yeah, I can see your messages. They're coming through now. I'm not sure why. There are issues. Let me just. I'm just thinking. I don't know if it's maybe the sun is maybe making things overheat. I'm not really sure. But if you can still hear me, let's just let's keep going and hope it gets better. Okay, cool. What is going on? Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it's good you can hear me, but I don't know why the video is being so fucking laggy. Okay, cool. Well, are you guys all right to keep going? We can at least finish this section because the visuals aren't that important, and then maybe we'll have to do the other two videos another time. just let me know in the chat, or because maybe it's just not worth it. Maybe it's a bit painful, and we can end the stream here if it's going to be too shit. None of your messages are coming through. So, yeah. Oh, you can see me fine. Okay, cool. Well, let's just persist with this one, and then maybe we'll have to end it after this one, just because the other two are going to be more visual, and we'll have to do them in another stream. This sucks, but okay, cool. Let's keep going.
Well, first of all, I want to say that, yeah, I believe that it is a spectrum. I think people are anti-procreative by matter of degree, and also by degree of their ability to conceptualize and acknowledge the consequences of what an anti-procreative world means. So I am child-free. I am antinatalist, but I'm also what's called F-list. F-l is life spelled backwards. And the most important difference there being, for me anyway, is that antinatalism proper is some of the time, not all the time, but some of the time anthropocentric, meaning that it's only concerned with the procreation and extinction of humans, and sentiocentric, meaning that it means that it's concerned with both the procreation and extinction of humans and animals. Ethylism never makes this distinction, where again antinatalism sometimes does, and also ethylism is just less ambivalent about extinction being a reasonable path for human beings to be on and try to engineer.
Okay, Mark.
Okay, I'm gonna use a lot of terms, and I promise I'll explain them all. Okay, so I'm a philanthropic, Benatarian, anti-speciesist, deontological-leaning anti-natalist. I'm not an extinctionist, and when it comes to the harm of death.
Yeah, so I'm a bit distracted from the video because I'm trying to like figure out what this is, why this is happening. But I'll sort it out afterwards. But yeah, Alden has just put in the chat that he likes Amanda already, and should look into her work. Yeah, Amanda's done a lot. To be honest, I don't know the full like range of everything Amanda has done, but everything I've seen her do is she's done a lot. And she puts like her heart and soul, is that the term, into it. Like, she's so dedicated.
I'm something called a deprivationist. So, okay, just to quickly explain those terms, philanthropic is that my moral consideration for the when I'm thinking about the creation of new sentient life is the harm to that being. So it's care for the being that'll come into existence. So that's the philanthropic argument for antinatalism. Benatarian I put in there because I believe in Benatar's axiological asymmetry argument for antinatalism. Not all antinatalists agree with that. Some of them believe in the consent argument or risk argument, or there again multiple arguments, but I believe that Benatar is correct on the asymmetry, axiological asymmetry. Anti-speciesist because, like Amanda, I do take other sentient animals into consideration when it comes to the harms of coming into existence. However, when it comes to the details, Amanda and I will disagree on that, on like how we what we ought to do. I'm deontological leaning, meaning a lot of my ethics are based on duty, not necessarily on consequences or outcomes. And I say leaning because I could veer towards virtue ethics or something else. And the extinctionist part is that if literally everyone accepted this philosophy, the logical consequence would be an extinction, just biological consequence. But I don't believe that ought to be a goal of.
Yeah, I agree with Mark there. Like at least for me, well, obviously, like it's not like me as an individual I'm going to be able to do anything about extinction or anything, but like, yeah, my, like, at least philosophically, my goal isn't extinction. Like for me, it doesn't really matter either way. It's just not bringing new lives into existence. If the lives already here find some way to sustain themselves, like for however long, even in infinity or whatever, I don't even know if that's possible, but I have no issue with that. Like, do whatever you want with your own life. It's about bringing new lives into existence. So I think maybe that's like a nuance that some people don't expect. I think even maybe some anti-natalists don't really get that, but I'm like anti-procreation, but not necessarily pro-extinction. Like if extinction happens, then so be it. Obviously, if it does happen, it would be like better if it happens in a nice way. But we may not be able to control how that happens if it does. Well, I mean, it will at some point, but like we won't be able to necessarily control how that happens.
Bringing about extinction. So that's a slight nuance in the chain of between us. And I do believe death is a harm. So it deprives you of the goods that would have happened. Some people take a Epicurean view where they don't believe death is a harm. So that explains all my terms, hopefully.
Yeah, so Tarek has just put in the chat that he wishes they'd start with a layperson intro to antinatalism. Going into extinction, deontology, axiology straight away would just confuse people who are new to AN. Yeah, I think I agree with Tarek. I think sometimes, especially because the antinatalism community is like the vast majority of it is online, and I think I don't know why, but it seems like things get a lot more philosophical when you're online than in person. Like they can get very philosophical, but I think the antinatalism community has gotten used to being very philosophical, which is good because we obviously want to understand the philosophical underpinnings of what we're saying. But when we're talking to people who are just being introduced to the topic, like the layperson, and remember, like being child-free is not necessarily like a philosophical position. So the people tuning into this conference could just be your average person who happens not to have a child and has somehow got in contact with the community or found out about this convention. They're not necessarily au fait with all of the philosophical terms or even necessarily philosophically literate in any way. I do think when we're talking to, if you're talking to people who are already anti-natalist or who are very philosophically minded, then cool, go for it. And it actually looks like the stream is getting better, the video quality, so maybe we can persist. Yeah. Let me know in the chat, has the video quality actually gotten better? Because I've got the stream up on my phone, so I can see it. That's how I'm keeping track of the chat, and it looks like it has gotten better. So just let me know. Anyway, where was I? So if you're talking to philosophically minded people or people who are anti-natalist already, cool, go for it. Use all the terms you want. But if we're talking to an audience who we can't assume are philosophically minded or are not anti-natalist already, I agree with Tarek. I think we should take it right down to basics and try not, like, you can refer to complex topics, well, not complex, but like more philosophical topics, but maybe don't use like the words that people may not necessarily know, if you get what I mean, or just don't like rely on them heavily. But I like, having said that, like, I think Mark and Amanda are both very eloquent. They're both doing like a really good job at this. That would just be the only thing I would say. Like, if I was doing this, I think I'd be a bit less philosophical.
Put that on a business card. That's
Yeah.
They're gonna quiz us after this, so I hope you're listening. All right. So the big question: what is the difference between antinatalism and child-free? And let's keep that within 15 minutes of this panel. The answers. Amanda, go ahead.
Oh, whoops. Sorry about that. I will do my best to keep this succinct. So again, I think it's by matter of degree in which you place a negative on procreation. And I don't mean, let me just preface this by saying I don't mean to overgeneralize what a child-free person believes or what an antinatalist believes, but in general, I think it's fair to say that child-free people are it's more of a personal thing. This is a good thing for me to do. It's not necessarily a statement about what others should do. And I think where we disagree is sort of in the consequences, like what our philosophy or what our positions lead us to. Child-free people are generally, not concerned with extinction. That's not really a topic that I see come up when I talk to child-free people, and I certainly see a sort of shocked reaction when it comes up. Certainly, sort of a frightened sort of it coming out of left field. But for the sake of contemplation, I do want to take a second to sort of ask child-free people for a moment to consider the fact that, okay, you've made this decision for yourself, and it's great that others around us or you are making the same decision. But what, in fact, if everybody started to make this decision? What if becoming child-free led to an abandonment of procreation? What would happen then? Well, it would contribute to an effort, consciously or unconsciously, towards human extinction. And maybe that individual child-free person will come to see that as a bad thing and realize, maybe I'm a little bit more pro-natalist than I thought. Or maybe it will lead them to very anti-natalist questions about life. Like, what are we doing here? What is it that we can't seem to let go of? Would extinction really be such a bad thing? Isn't the production of less victims, up to a point of no victims being produced anymore at all, really be a bad thing? Would that in fact be a good thing? So
yeah, I just want to pause there before Amanda moves on. Again, Amanda is like very eloquent, but what was the thing I was going to touch on? Fuck, my mind is gone now. What was Amanda just talking about? Nope, fuck, it's gone. Right, let's just continue.
We have our differences, yes, but I think taken to a logical conclusion, we do end up in roughly the same.
Oh yeah, that was it, about like extinction, and like Amanda was talking about, if an individual person doesn't have kids, then cool. But like, what if everyone made that decision and, extinction would result, etc. Like, I feel like obviously it's like, it's like an obvious question people are going to ask, like, oh, but what about extinction? But I just think, like, practically speaking, at this point in the game, surely it's just not a consideration, at least in terms of like declining population, because like so many people are still having kids. Like the global population is still going up, right? Like I think we're about to hit 8 billion. We'll reach 9, 10, 11 billion. My understanding is that it will cap out around 11 billion, and maybe it will go down or maybe it will just stay there. But like, I just feel when someone brings up a concern about extinction, I just feel like saying to them, look at the world around you. It is not like anti-natalists are taking over. This is not a concern we really need to take seriously at the moment. And I just think it's a bit like, you know how when someone says, like, I don't know how many people in the chat are vegan, but like, given the people who have been, sorry, not in the chat, watching the stream, but given the people in the chat, I'm assuming most of the people watching, if not all, are vegan, right? And one thing that we hear a lot is like, oh, but if we stop eating animals, then like they say like, oh, if the whole world goes vegan overnight, this will lead to chaos. There'll be animals everywhere, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, this is not a concern. What world do you think we're living in? It's not like everyone's going to go vegan overnight. Like, why is this something you're bringing up? Clearly, what's going to happen is that if the world does become vegan, it is going to happen over a period of time, and our global supply chains and our population or whatever thing is going to be able to adjust to this over time, right? That, I don't have like a crystal ball and so I can see into the future, but this is clearly what is going to happen unless some sort of really unexpected thing comes up. This is clearly what is going to happen if the world does become vegan. Now, it's basically the same with anti-natalism. Like, if anti-natalism will result in some way in human population decline to a significant degree and then extinction at some point, this is clearly not going to happen overnight. People are not going to en masse adopt antinatalism. You would have to be an idiot to believe that, right? So clearly, sorry, I'm just trying to block out the sun, because I have a feeling it was the sun which was making the whole lag earlier. It was making everything overheat, so I'm trying to like block it out. Clearly this is not a concern. When people say like, oh, but antinatalism, if we go extinct, there's going to be so much suffering, blah, blah, blah. Like, first of all, I don't think extinction in and of itself is going to cause any suffering, or is even an issue. The only issue that could come up is that is the process of extinction. It could cause a lot of suffering, right? But if extinction comes around via antinatalism, it's going to happen very, very slowly and over time. And if it is adopted widespread, we're going to see it coming far off in the future that extinction is going to happen, because presumably if it's adopted so widespreadly, that's what we're going to be aiming for. So clearly as a society, we'll be preparing for that as best we can. So this whole concern of like, who's going to look after the last generation, and all of these issues are going to come up, like, yeah, sure. But if we ever are going to get to that point, like, we'll have been preparing for that for generations. I'm not saying it would all be smooth sailing if any of this happens. Like, to be honest, I doubt any of this is going to happen. Like, sure, I believe at some point humans will go extinct. Is it going to be as a result of antinatalism and voluntary non-reproduction? Probably not. But like, I just don't think this is a concern, especially now. Like, I don't think this is a concern about a widespread adoption of antinatalism leading to extinction, which will cause loads of suffering on the way. I just think it's a completely unreasonable concern to have. Yeah.
So I think we do have more common than we think, and I think we need each other more than is typically thought.
I will agree. I believe both camps can work together. We've had that discussion before. Thank you for that. Mark, go ahead.
I'd say that antinatalism is an ethical claim of the creation of new sentient beings or humans, and Childfree is a personal choice that doesn't make an ethical claim, other than possibly challenging patriarchal gender roles that women ought to have kids. So that's the difference that I see.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. I guess because I was saying before that Childfree is more just like a behavioral thing. It's not really a philosophical thing. But I guess it can stem from, would you, because I can't remember word for word, but Mark was talking about like a rejection of patriarchal gender norms. I think he said, I don't know if you'd label that as philosophical. I guess you could. I don't really know what you'd label it as. But it is like a stance, at least. It's like a belief, a stance, rather than just a behavior. Yeah, so no, I agree with Mark there. That like being child-free doesn't have to just be a behavior. It can be just out of personal preference, but it can also be a stance that someone takes.
That makes sense. So all these terms, all this terminology, everything, where should someone start if they want to learn more about antinatalism?
Oh, this is great, this bit coming up. I was like very hyped after this. I was going to say very gassed, but I think that's English slang that maybe other people won't get. But yeah, so I think Mark is going to read out like a list of places that they are going to recommend people to go to learn more about antinatalism. And one of the ones he reads out is the handbook, an antinatalist handbook. Actually, just let me go back. So I'm just going to actually get the link for the. Actually, no, I don't need to. Fuck, what am I doing? I'm an idiot. The link for the handbook is in the description of this live stream, so definitely go check it out. It's a project I help out with. There are people in the chat that also have helped out with it and are currently helping out with it, but I don't know if they want to be named, so I won't name them. But yeah, the handbook is, like, I hope, a great resource. A lot of effort has been put into it by myself and many other people, translators. And it's just great that it's been received as a useful resource to the point where someone like Mark and Amanda would recommend people go to it. which is great. And I did actually get a notification on my phone yesterday. I haven't actually checked. I was busy yesterday, so I couldn't check it out. But I got a notification on my phone saying that there had been an unusually high level of traffic to the website yesterday, which is great. So I'm guessing that's because of this, which is great.
Amanda, we'll let you dive into that.
Actually, I'm going to let Mark, if that's
Okay.
okay, answer that one, just because he's got the list and I didn't.
Oh, good.
I don't have the list yet. Sorry, Mark.
Okay. So I got shameless plug, the Exploring Anti-natalism podcast, available on most podcast apps and YouTube. It's a great intro to, I mean, there's close to going on 3 years of material, and it's a great introduction into the philosophy and understanding different viewpoints. There's anti-natalisthandbook.org. It goes through common objections and arguments. I think one of the sponsors, stophavingkids.org. It's a great website. Anti-natalism Reddit in the summary section of what anti-natalism is. I think that's a decent summary. The Wikipedia entry on anti-natalism is a good overview. The Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy has an entry on anti-natalism recently by philosopher Kirk Lougheed, I believe. That's pretty good. And this isn't an introduction, but if possible, if people are interested in going deeper, philosopher David Benatar's book, Better Never to Have Been. Again, it's not an intro book, but if you could...
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you a question, actually, because I've read a few. I've been getting much more into reading recently, so I've read a few anti-natalist books now. Not like a massive amount, but a few, including Benatar's book. I've read several of Benatar's books, but yes, I've read Better Never to Have Been. But yeah, anyone who wants to put in the chat, what is your favorite, or you think is the best anti-natalist book / literature? It'd be interesting to see what people say. And I'm going to say that you can't say Better Never to Have Been by David Benatar, because I feel like several people will say that, and like everyone already knows that one. So apart from that one, put in the chat what is your favorite anti-natalist book.
Read it. I think it's an important body of work in the philosophy. I would not recommend learning about anti-natalism via Twitter or Reddit comments. It's
You shouldn't learn anything from Twitter or Reddit or.
I was gonna say.
Alden's put a message in the chat. I don't know if this is asking me, so maybe I'm answering a question that was meant for someone else. But Alden is saying about what do you think about starting a Stop Having Kids chapter in the UK? To be honest, I think that would be a good idea. Like, I'd definitely turn up to some. I wouldn't commit to organizing it myself. So I'm in no way against it at all. Like, I would go and support it as an individual activist, but I just don't think I have the time. I got too many other commitments to be able to organize a Stop Having Kids chapter in the UK. But if anyone in the UK, or specifically in London, is thinking about maybe starting one up, definitely go for it. I will give any help I can, and I will definitely turn up to the actual demonstrations as well. Or even if it's in a different place in the UK, I will try and travel to go and support. And then Tarek says, maybe unpopular opinion, Better Never to Have Been by David Benatar is beyond boring. I couldn't get through that book. Yeah, I tried reading it. So it's very philosophical, so I get you there. And there were parts in it that I thought like, oh, this is a bit dense. So I can agree with you there. I think it's like a good book overall. I really enjoyed it, and it it helped me like I just found it like really useful and interesting. But I can get where you're coming from. Like, it's very philosophical. And there was another thing I was going to say, but I can't remember. Yeah, I did. I tried reading it first time, and I think I got maybe like 20 pages in, and I was like, I don't think I'm ready for this. Like, this is a bit dense. And then, but I think that's more because I wasn't used to reading rather than the actual book itself. So I started reading with other books that are less dense. And then went to Better Never to Have Been, and I read it like cover to cover. And then Alden says, I was already AN before reading Better Never to Have Been. Yeah, no, I was as well. Although I would say that I I hadn't read the book, but I'd heard a lot of what was in the book from interviews with David Benatar. But I hadn't read the book. I only read Better Never to Have Been a couple of months ago, and I've been anti-natalist for around 5 years. Tarek said Benatar is great to listen to, yeah, but I don't think he is an engaging author. Really? I really like him as an author. I've read Better Never to Have Been, Human Predicament, Debating Procreation, which he does half of it, and Second Sexism, and I think that's it, actually. Yeah. But talking of Benatar, there's actually a new interview with him out, which is not about anti-natalism. It's about, his most recent book is The Fall of the University of Cape Town. He's just done an interview with that on a channel called The Dissenter, I think. I might be getting that wrong. I can't really remember the name of the channel. But yeah, so there's a new interview out a couple of days ago. Cool. Okay, I'm going to continue with the video.
This is something where I think we all agree on is that don't learn Childfree or anti-natalism.
This is why every time they create an AI, it becomes the most terrible thing in existence because it learns from the internet.
So the anti-natalism platform seems to be very clear on your terminology, on the terminologies and definitions, and that is something we're not yet there in the Childfree community. We can't seem to batten down what Childfree means, even just for one. So how do we reach that level? Let me rephrase it. How does the Childfree community reach that level of establishment that anti-natalism seems to have hit?
Well, I wish I had a good answer for you. I would have to disagree with you 100% that we're all good, we're all squared away, we're all clear.
Yeah, I would disagree as well.
What the definition of anti-natalism is. I want to point out that anti-natalism, despite being an ancient idea, was only a word first used as a philosophical term in 2006. It still has no set definition. It is not in any dictionary in the world in any language yet. I have campaigned twice to have it added into Oxford English Dictionary, to no avail. So I think we do have some good terminology. We've got a handle on a lot of terms. But I think that there is just as much gatekeeping in anti-natalism as there is in the child-free world. Honestly, if not a good deal more so. So this is a very difficult question for me to answer. I truly don't know. And it's definitely something I think, that needs to be a wider project. And I think that the thing that I can do is, the thing that I can suggest is, things like this, things that create more active conversation between the different camps, just an ability to have disagreement and to suss that, disagreement out in a calm, reasonable manner. I mean, I think those are the things that are gonna get us there, to sort of be tolerant of one another, and just to have these open conversations. I think that's all we can do at the minute.
All right, so Mark, same question, even though I'm now doubting myself to ask that question.
Yeah, so Amanda, I think, has been part of the anti-natalist scene for going on 12 years now.
Yep.
And been around 7 years. And I think, we're in terms of these communities, they are definitely not clear on the definition. I think in terms of gatekeeping, I remember when I was talking to you, Lenora, about the child-free movement, I had misconceptions. And when I talked to you, you communicated all these different ideas within that community. And I think that when people talk to me or Amanda, we can say that there's disagreement. And I think that's the best that we can do, is just illuminate all the different ideas within these categories and leave it up to people to agree or disagree with whatever stance there are. I don't believe in shutting down the conversation with ideas that you disagree with. Again, Amanda and I disagree on some things, and I think the best thing that we can do is talk to one another and share our ideas, and let people decide for themselves instead of.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think maybe I'll do a video at some point on censorship and antinatalism, because I think I don't know. I think some people are inclined to censor views that they don't agree with, but I just think this, yeah. Well, I won't go into my thoughts now because I don't want to drag the stream out too long. We've still got the 2 videos to go, but yeah, I think I'll do a video on that.
Keeping it one thing or the other.
Yeah, and I just want to add that's been very controversial because people do want these very set camps. But we, Mark and I have been really clear that we want to have these open disagreements. We really think they're very important.
I mean, yeah, if you're operating in a vacuum or an echo chamber, you're just going to be reinforced with what you already think, and you won't learn anything, you won't change or evolve. And so, yeah, I think it's vital for us to continue all the dialogues and conversations. So for someone that maybe they haven't declared themselves as an antinatalist, are there any specific principles or beliefs that might kind of cause them to say, you know what, maybe I need to look more into this for a better understanding? Amanda, go ahead. Sorry.
Sure. I mean, this is another and it's a hard question to answer. I mean, for me, it's thinking about what is the future going to be. A lot of people have a lot of these big, highfalutin ideas of we're going to transhumanize and we're going to become robots and we're going to edit out the suffering from the humans and the animals, and it's all we're going to paradise engineer.
I was actually talking to one of these people on Friday evening a couple of days ago. I just find it so painful to talk to these people. I think they're just like it's like an unhealthy level of optimism. But another conversation for another time.
And I just don't see much evidence of that happening. And so that has led me to think more in terms of, okay, so how do we end well? At its base, at its core, for me anyway, and I think I can speak for Mark too, this is all about the suffering being unacceptable. That there's all this suffering in the world, and life is the product of unintelligent design, and suffering is this thing that it manufactures, that life manufactures, and so the best way to empathize with that is to try to not create more of it, and to try to close the curtain in as gentle a way as possible. So I think trying to conceptualize the future is kind of a good way of getting there. There's other kind of social movements and ideas I think that kind of can help bring you along, and I think we'll get into some of that in the next question. But yeah, I think that's some of what kind of helped me get there.
So Mark.
And for me, I'd say an empathetic consideration for future possible sentient beings would be a principle or a belief to look forward looking, just reflecting upon the question of is it ethical to create a new being into existence, and looking at all sides before making the choice. And I just want to make a quick comment that it is quite a suffering focused ethic, but it's coming from a place of love and compassion. And I see this as quite a beautiful and positive philosophy.
Yeah, I agree with Mark there. Some of my, sometimes it's nice for people to do like really hard hitting like anti-natalist quotes, like stick it to them, tell them how it is. But like some of my favorite anti-natalist quotes are ones just talking about the place of compassion that this viewpoint comes from, because it's often mischaracterized as being anti-human or from a place of hatred or misery or something like that, or depression. But it like, at least for me and clearly for Mark as well, and hopefully for a lot of other people, it just comes from a place of compassion and being able to look at the situation you would put someone else in and empathize with that and go, actually, I'm not going to do that because I don't think there's anything for that person to gain, and there's a lot for them that could go wrong. There's a lot of harm at stake there. There's a quote that I read by I'm going to say his name wrong probably, Emil Cioran, and I think he's Romanian philosopher, and dead now, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And yeah, there was a quote saying something like, let me actually get it wrong. Get it up, because I don't want to get it wrong. Let me get it up, because I think it's this one. Yeah, so it's I do not hate life or desire death. I only regret being born. And I think that is like so true, and like reflects my position as well. It's like relative to a lot of people on this planet, I have a good life. I don't hate my life. I don't spend my time lamenting my existence, all of this sort of stuff. And I also don't desire death. You know, I'm not like every morning waking up like, oh, you know, I can't wait for the last day to come. So yeah, I don't hate my life, and I don't desire death. I don't want death to necessarily come quickly or anything like that. I only regret being born. Just this whole thing starting off, you know, just this whole thing being started. Like now it's going. Like I'm lucky enough not to hate it, and I don't, you know, necessarily desire for it to end quickly, because, you know, now I have this will to live and this addiction to life. But, you know, I just regret the fact that it was all started in the first place. And like, honestly, I'm not eloquent enough to come up with quotes like that. Like that is such a good quote. Like he just hit the nail on the head. And I've got like a long reading list of books that I want to get and read. And yeah, I've got a couple of his books that I want to that I've got on there that I want to read, because I just think that is such a good quote. Yeah, and it sums up how I feel like so well. But like I was saying, like yeah, I really like the quotes that are more about compassion and stuff like that. I would get them up, but like it would just take too long and I'd be faffing around and all that sort of stuff. And then I'm just gonna put in the chat, because Alden has just asked, so I'm gonna spell his name. I think that's how you spell it. I've just put it in the chat from my phone. I think that's how you spell it. But yeah, I really like that quote. And then Alden says, Tarek says, there's a stop having kids sign that says not bringing someone into existence can be an act of love. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I resonate with that. And then Alden says, I suppose it can come from a place of compassion, but it doesn't have to. No, of course it doesn't have to. Like, I don't know what you're getting. Well, let me finish. Just like veganism doesn't necessarily come from a place of compassion. It should come from a place of deliberate, considered ethics. Oh yeah, no, 100%. It can come from a place of pure rationale, reason, ethics. But yeah, I just quite like I don't know, with veganism, I don't necessarily like the whole woo-woo compassion stuff, because I'm like, no, it's not compassionate to not stab someone in the throat, is it? It's just basic decency. It's just what you should be doing. But for some reason, I do quite like it when it comes to anti-natalism, and maybe that's just an inconsistency in my emotions. I don't know, but yeah, I do quite like it. And then Tarek says, do I have a Goodreads account? You can share your reading list there. Would love to see it. I've been asked a couple of times if I have a Goodreads, because I read quite a lot and post about the books I read. No, and I think I understand like generally what Goodreads is, and what the deal is with it. I'm just hesitant to start one, because I don't really want to like maintain another like platform, social media sort of thing. But I post about the link to my personal Instagram page is on is in the description, and I post about the books I read on my Instagram story, and I've got a highlight. You know, on Instagram you can do highlights of your stories. I've got one that's called Books, and it has pictures of all the books that I've read recently. And yeah, I like post regularly about the books I'm reading and have just finished, and the next one I'm going to read, and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think Goodreads in a perfect world would be a thing I would do, but it's just time, attention, all of this sort of stuff. Oh, sorry.
Even though it can come across a little dark, but yeah, that's all.
And I just want to add to that by saying that, yeah, I often say that antinatalism is perfect prevention. it's a a perfectly peaceful way to prevent all the suffering.
Yeah, and I declare that I am a child-free person, but I wouldn't say that I'm an anti-natalist. But in the same coin, I'm not a pro-natalist either, where you should just have as many kids as possible. So I don't know if, I guess, getting back into like the thoughts and the terminology, maybe that's why child-free people feel like we're just kind of tumbling along sometimes, and some people want a deeper definition of what child-free means, which is why it's a panel in the convention. But what would that middle ground be? I don't know. That's part of the discussion and where the dialogue has to come in, and where it's great to talk to people in the child-free world that are anti-natalist and that are pro-natalist. There are child-free people that say, you know what, yeah, people should have as many kids as possible. I just don't want to have any kids. And so having those dialogues is really valuable.
Oh, and we have an incoming question. I was just going to shout a reminder to the audience, not shout, sorry. Remind you peacefully and kindly that you can ask questions to the panel at any time, and we will try to address as many as possible.
And even when this is archived, still leave questions and we'll try to get some responses and answers for you.
Yeah. We'll make them answer anyway.
That's right.
I know where you all live. Well,
tell us what you think.
All right, question. Do we have our question?
Looks like not. Well, we're about time to wrap up anyway. So real briefly, let's give you guys a chance to plug and promote anything that you would like to. So Amanda, we'll begin with you.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. So you can find me at the Exploring Anti-natalism podcast, about to release the 63rd episode on Monday. Lenora and the rest of the Childfree girls have been guests in the past. And yeah, you can also find me on the YouTube channel Anti-Natal Wolf, my YouTube channel of 10 plus years, Forever Wolf Films, was removed by YouTube fairly recently, about a year ago now.
Oh, no.
Yeah, unceremoniously just murdered off of YouTube. So it's kind of sad. But yeah, you can still find me on Anti-Natal Wolf.
Yeah, again, I'll put the link to Amanda's new channel in the description once this is over. But yeah, I don't know why Forever Wolf Films was removed. So yeah, sad. Yeah, I don't know what the latest on that. I talk to Amanda somewhat regularly, sort of every now and again. Yeah, but I don't know any particular updates on that.
Exploring Anti-natalism podcast, and also Anti-natalism International. Lots of great projects coming up. So yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Mark?
You can find me on YouTube if you search !philosophy. And is it okay to give my email?
You sure can, yeah.
So
at your own risk.
That's fine. If anybody has any questions or would like to contact me, my email is greenrebelvegan@gmail.com. And I also have a Twitter, question_MarkTV. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, awesome. And we have a quick question for the panel.
Oh fuck yeah, I forgot about this. Yeah, I was watching it live and I sent in a question. Yeah, I sent this in because I knew that the people watching this are just child-free. They wouldn't necessarily have come across anti-natalism before. And one of the things that I know that some people, one of the first things I think comes to some people's heads is like, okay, yeah, I get about the suffering, like that's bad, but like, is it not good to bring people into existence if they're going to have a good life and just a small amount of suffering? So I thought I'd ask this question just to see what Amanda and Mark would say, so that if anyone in the audience was thinking that, they would then get an answer. But actually also, the evening before, I'd been talking to that guy who I mentioned before, who's like, you know, super optimistic about the transhumanist future, and like we'll get to a point where everyone will just have blissful lives, and it's good then to just pump people out into existence because of that. And I wanted to see how Amanda and Mark would respond to that.
What would you say to people that think creating people who would enjoy their lives is a good thing? Leave that up there. Leave the question up there if you could. There we go. What would you say to people that think that creating... Okay.
Hey, it's Lawrence. Mark, you want to take it, or do you want me to do it? Go for it.
I would give a long answer, so you go ahead. Because
Yeah.
I guess my quick thing is the absence of I would just go into the asymmetry. So go ahead, Amanda.
That's what I did when I was talking to this guy. I just went into the asymmetry, but it was really frustrating because he would agree with the asymmetry, and then when we went down the line and saw where it led to, he would be like, "No, I don't agree with that." And then I would say, "Yeah, but we established already together that we agree with the asymmetry," and then we would go back to the asymmetry, go through it again, and he would agree again, and we just went in circles.
Well, I mean, good lives don't exist in a vacuum, right? I mean, and also, you all the good lives do come at the expense of an awful lot of really bad ones. There's no way to edit out. When you roll the dice of procreation, you're creating both, and I just don't think that. It's great if people enjoy their lives, but also what is it that is giving them that goodness? Are they deriving their satisfaction from contributing to the murder of a bunch of animals and and enjoying hamburgers and ice cream, or is that goodness coming from something better than that? And that's not typically a question that's really asked, I think. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is that you can't have the bitter with the sweet. I mean, the sweet always comes at the expense of the bitter.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. Like that's how I would respond to people. Like I usually use the like the way I usually convey it to people is that, like, I don't think there's any point creating good lives anyway because of the asymmetry. But even if we think that it's good to create good lives, those good lives don't exist in a vacuum. And because any life that we create, there's a risk that it's going to be an awful life. And I explain it like this. So, like, sure, it's great that all around the world, the kids that exist, there are a lot of them in playgrounds, at birthdays, doing whatever, having a great time, enjoying themselves. But, tucked away, and where we don't often think about it, is there's a lot of kids in the world suffering. And I think that the kids that exist in these playgrounds having a great time, it comes at a cost, and the cost is all of the kids in cancer wards or dying of starvation or in natural disaster zones, all of this sort of stuff. The good lives don't exist in a vacuum. Every time we create people, we're rolling the dice on whether this is assuming that a good life is good to create. Like, I don't even think that's true because of the asymmetry, but assuming it is, it's not bad to not create them because there's no one deprived of that. But they don't come in that vacuum, like who would look out onto the world and have a reasonable assessment of it and think, yeah, that's, those are good odds to roll on. Like, who knows, no parent of a kid in a hospital with cancer, thought, yeah, my kid's going to be the one in hospital with cancer. No parent thinks that, unless they're sadistic and they knew it ahead of time and they did it anyway for some reason. But, like, no parent thinks, yeah, my kid is going to be the one that's going to end up with brain cancer at 5 years old. People, yeah, I think I've got the point across. It just pisses me off.
I think they did a great job. That will wrap up our panel. Thank you both for your time, and we'll be right back.
It's a pleasure. Congratulations, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So that is the end of that one. Now, I'm going to try and interrupt less so we can get through the next two a bit quicker. But this is the Bill Maher video. So let me line that up. Cool. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat to address before we move on. So I'm going to go straight into this Bill Maher one.
And finally, new rule, the recent report that informed us that in November of this year, the population of the Earth will hit 8 billion is not good news. And those who regard it as such should be treated for TikTok brain. The Secretary General of the
Yeah, and again, just to remind people, I haven't seen this, so I'm watching this live.
United Nations, of all people, said that welcoming our 8 billionth person was an occasion to celebrate our diversity. Yes, what a comfort that people of all races will be contributing to an already unsustainable carbon footprint and choking and starving equally.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they mean by an occasion to celebrate our diversity. I don't really get that. Do they mean diversity in race? I'm not sure why the 8 billionth. Yeah, I don't really get that. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, with yeah, I guess it's clear from where he's going already. It is going to be an environmental slant from what he's saying. And Tarek's asking in the chat, does Bill Maher have kids? I have no idea. I would guess not. And I would guess if he does, then they're probably adopted, given like how he talks about it. But yeah, I'm guessing he doesn't. But I don't know for sure.
Have you seen what has been happening with the climate in recent years? Did you see England last week? England is pretty far north, but the runways are melting. Our farmland is shrinking due to scorching temperatures and drought. 1 out of 4 people on Earth is food insecure, what we used to call hungry.
Oh, that's fucking what's his name? Oh God, John McWhorter. Yeah, I've seen a few of his things. Yeah, I wonder why he's on this.
There's another one. And billions face some form of water scarcity. Water isn't the only thing we're running out of. Clean air, quality soil.
Tarek's just saying turn up the audio on the video. The audio is at max, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my audio down. So I've just turned it down, and if you turn your audio up for the stream, so I've just turned my microphone audio down, so it should balance out with the video now. So if you turn your stream up, so both of the volumes go up.
Rainforests, wetlands.
Let me know if that's better.
Precious metals that make our phones work. We're even running out of sand. Sand. Which may not seem important, but without it, you can't make concrete or glass.
Oh fuck, you're on max. I don't know if there's any way to. Well, I'll put my volume back up because there's no point in me being quieter. But yeah, I don't know if there's any way for me to turn it up anymore. I mean, like it's on max. Yeah, sorry about that. If someone knows a way, put it in the chat. But
so you can look outside and see the world.
I think it's just a quiet video.
And all of this is not unrelated to there being ever more people on Earth who tend to use things. Tracy.
Yeah, so the next video the video I'm releasing on Tuesday about NAS Daily actually goes into this, like talking about population in terms of environmental, like talking about procreation and population along environmental lines. Like maybe I can do a whole stream on this topic and like we can talk about it in the chat and stuff like that. And I go into it more in the video I'm doing on Tuesday. But I gotta say, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I just think it gets messy. I studied, so I've got a degree in environmental science, right? So I understand all the things he's saying. I understand how they fit together and the mechanisms. And I'm not denying any of the things that are going on with the environment. Sometimes I think some people overhype them a bit. And there are other people who just flat out deny them, and I think that's like not equally but more stupid. So yeah, like I'm not like the talking about the environment in and of itself. I have no issue with. Like it's an important topic to talk about, but talking about it along with procreation. I just think it is it's a tripwire we don't need to set off. And I think it's one that could get us caught up in loads of debates with people that is just not necessary on multiple levels, right? So the first one is like what's been called like eco-fascism. There's this whole thing of like people have termed basically people have termed controlling people's behavior and lives to an extreme degree to limit environmental impact as eco-fascism. One of the forms of that is like depopulation or limiting population or people's rights to have kids because of environmental concerns. We're going to get lumped in with that. I don't think that's the best thing to get lumped in with, to be honest. Another thing is, as soon as you bring environmental things into it, you have to get into empirics. And like if you're talking to someone who has the perspective of like there are some people who think there's nothing going on with the environment, and there are some people that think the world is going to end like tomorrow, and there's a spectrum in between, right? If you are talking to someone who's on this end of the spectrum who thinks like it's a massive concern and, you know, things are falling apart as we speak, then okay, cool. It may be productive to talk about the environment in terms of procreation there, because you can do the whole thing of like, is it the best thing to bring someone into the world when this is happening? But you don't necessarily know you're talking to someone like that. And if there's someone who's a bit more skeptical, you're just going to get into empirics with them. They're just going to start having an environmental conversation and you're going to get sidetracked, right? I think it's best to stay on the core issue of just the ethics, preferably philanthropic ethics of creating someone, and then maybe the misanthropic as well. Yeah, it's just like... I just think it's going to get us sidetracked. It's going to get us given all sorts of labels which we don't need. Like, sure, with anti-natalism, you're going to get labels thrown at you no matter what. But it's like, if there are conversations we don't necessarily need to lean on that much, that are prone to getting us labels and like getting us sidetracked, I just don't like. There's not much point doing it. That's my view. Maybe people disagree. Like, I'm fine talking about the environment generally, but if I'm talking about procreation, I'm going to avoid the whole environmental topic because I just think it's messy and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. And then, has anyone put anything in the chat? Yeah, cool. Tarek switched to headphones. And then Alden saying he lost a close friend when they called him an eco-fascist. That was the first time I'd heard it. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been called an eco-fascist myself, just because I don't tend to talk about the environment with procreation. I talk about them separately. Even though I agree they are linked, but I just don't necessarily think pointing out the link over and over again and focusing on it is necessarily the most helpful thing. But yeah, I don't think I've ever been called it, but I've heard other people be called it before. And I think it's one of those terms, like I think eco-fascist is one of those terms that gets like slung around. There's a lot of terms nowadays that, you know, like people just call someone it because it's easier to label someone and disregard them than actually engage with what they're saying.
Stone Manning is our director of the Bureau of Land Management, and she said, if there were fewer of us, we would have less impact. We must consume less, and more importantly, we must breed fewer consuming humans. Yes, I thought this was a duh. And until very recently, it was. But now there's a growing movement of people more worried about population decline.
Sorry, I'm just looking in the chat, and Wassenpop, I think it looks German. I'm assuming that is how you say it, is talking about, how do you say that, Moscovici, his work on minority influence. No, I haven't heard of that. I'll try and remember to look it up later, but if you can go through the description and find my Dutch, if you could find my Instagram through the description and maybe DM me a link. Like if you don't have time or, you know, you can't be asked, then it's all cool. I'll try and remember to look it up afterwards, but it's just in case I forget.
And that's what we should be celebrating. But Elon Musk says
the biggest problem the world will face in 20 years is population collapse.
I get I understand where the perspective Elon is coming from, because I believe what he's talking about is he's saying, you know, society needs to keep functioning, and for society to keep functioning, we need people. There's probably some sort of threshold of people below which, if you go, society starts to stop functioning. I don't know what that threshold is, because our societies are based around creating new people, right? Now, I think that's the perspective he's coming from. Now, if you come from that perspective, then sure, like one of the biggest problems we may have if population does decline, will be population decline. I don't know why I repeated that. So, for example, some of them might be not enough people to pay tax to support the elderly, not enough people to work in factories, etc., to produce stuff. Like you see it in Vassenpop doesn't have Instagram. Can you leave a comment? I think you can put links in comments. If you can leave a comment on this live stream, I think I've enabled comments. If you can leave a comment with a link, maybe that would be great. Thanks. So I understand the perspective Elon is coming from. We're just coming at it from completely different perspectives. Like, I don't think we should be leaning on using people as a means to our own ends, right? Like, sure, there are problems in society, but these are our problems to face, right? Let's not bring someone else into the world and put the problem on them, because we're just kicking the can down the road. Like, at some point, we are going to face these problems. Why kick the can down the road, like, and put the problem on someone else? Let's, be mature and responsible and work on the problem now. But I just think Elon Musk is not having a very nuanced conversation on this.
Come on, of all the excuses not to wear a condom.
That's true. I think a lot of people do put these highfalutin, complicated, meta-level excuses forward for procreation, and they're actually just doing it because they want to have a kid themselves. Because it's like, even if you accepted a lot of these high-level excuses that people give, like, we need more intelligent people to be able to further society, or we need people for the transhumanist utopia to progress towards that. It's like, even if you accept that, it doesn't justify them as an individual having a kid. Like, they can just adopt and facilitate the same thing. But usually it's intellectual type people putting this forward as a cover for their own selfish desire to have a mini-me.
Population collapse? Has he been to Disney World on a Saturday? The only thing that's collapsing is the Dumbo ride under the weight of all those obese 8-year-olds. I'm not worried about the population collapsing. I'm worried about the glaciers collapsing and the food chain and the electrical grid. Look, I'm a big Musk fan, but I have no idea what he's talking about when he says Earth could sustain many times its current population and the ecosystem would be fine. It's not fine now. Nature World News just reported an unprecedented global extinction crisis with more than 1 million species expected to die off in the next few decades. The bees are all dying, and the coral reefs. Fish populations in the ocean are collapsing. What the fuck are these people talking about? America's population is now about 300.
Well, to be honest, if we want to steel man, what's his face, Elon Musk, basically what he's pointing at Western societies at the moment, because obviously we have aging populations, like the UK does. I don't know if America does, because I think America gets a lot of immigration, right? So maybe it's not as big in America, but maybe it is an issue. Japan is a famous example. I think South Korea as well. I think China is maybe going to face this in the future. I think there's been murmurs or grumblings about that. So if we want to steelman him, I think that's what he's saying. He's saying, we're seeing it in certain societies. Even though the global population is still increasing, I think Elon is talking about this is happening in Western societies now, and as other and that's an issue for those societies, but it will globally become a problem when all the other countries get to that point, I think, is what he's saying. Now, obviously you can debate the ethics of that, but I'm just saying that's what Elon is saying, I think.
35 million. And there's a supposedly smart guy named Matthew Iglesias who wrote a book called 1 Billion Americans, arguing there should be a billion of us. A billion Americans. Insert your own traffic on the 405 joke here. His argument is basically that the country with the most people has the most power, and that should be us, and why not? We have plenty of space. Okay. For the millionth time, and let me repeat for the thinking impaired. Yes, we do have space. Point conceded. It's not about space. It's about resources. Didn't we just run out of baby formula? Was the problem not enough babies? Yes, there's space on Earth for more people, but somehow they all seem to want to get on this train. You can make a billion Americans, but they're still not going to want to live in North Dakota.
I'm not American, so I don't get some of these jokes. Like, I don't know what the 405 is. I'm assuming it's just a busy road. And I don't know what North Dakota's like.
Even if they did, where are all these new residents of the greater Bismarck metro area going to eat? Soylent Green? The famous theory put forth in 1798 by Thomas Malthus that population grows exponentially, but water and food do not, has not really changed. We've improved food growing.
I was going to say something, but actually I think he's maybe going to say it, so let's see what he says.
Yes. But it's still finite, and you can't grow water. The planet's resources are finite, but our predilection to always be down to fuck apparently is not.
Yeah, I think one nuance that can be added to the environmental conversation is that, this is independent from the ethics of procreation, the point I'm going to make, right? So I you all know my views on that. But purely talking environmentally, like, we're in a relatively bad spot now, but the human capacity for innovation may get us out of this rut. Like, I don't know if it is going to. Maybe we're past the point of no return where no technology is going to save us. I don't know. But like the point he was making there with Malthus and all of this, I'm not necessarily 100% on board with it because, there are certain So our population at the moment, let's say our population is this, and let's say the total impact we have environmentally is this because of this population, right? We could remain at this population and bring our impact down, or we could even increase the population and bring the impact down, because environmental impact isn't just a function of population, it's also a function of the impact that those individuals have, right? So I think... and this is another reason why I don't think it's that great to focus on the environment, because there are just so many factors involved. If we change to a completely plant-based food system, this is not going to happen. But if we change to a completely plant-based food system in the next 10 years, this would massively reduce our environmental impact. It would free up a load more space for people to live on. We'd be able to produce the same amount of food a lot more efficiently in a smaller place. We'd be producing less greenhouse gases. It would be absorbing more greenhouse gases. We would be producing a lot less pollution. It's like I don't, if that land gets freed up, I don't want more people to be born and live on it, clearly, but I'm just purely speaking environmentally. I'm just saying, like, these are all the things you have to take into account, and it's such a complicated topic. So when you're talking about procreation, it's just like, why bring it onto the environmental subject when it's so complicated? You've also got like energy, nuclear. I haven't fully formed my opinions on nuclear energy, but it does seem like a decent way forward. It's had a lot of stigma from the big disasters that have happened in the past, but it seems like the newer the newer generations of technology in nuclear power seem to be a lot safer and a lot more like a lot better generally. They so that you know, that could give us a base load level of energy without producing nearly as much greenhouse gases. I think my understanding is that nuclear energy actually has the lowest, for the amount of power it can produce, it actually has the lowest death toll, I think. And I think there's a big misconception about it. I'm no expert on this, so I may be wrong. But I think there's a big misconception about it, because obviously people focus on things like Chernobyl and Fukushima. But yeah, like nuclear generally only kills people in those big disasters, is my understanding. Maybe some people die from like waste as well, but I believe that the newer generations, the waste is not as toxic, or they can use the same thing over and over again, so it doesn't actually really have any waste, is my understanding. But again, I'm no expert. But if you take something like fossil fuels, for example, fossil fuels leads to massive amounts of death tolls. I think at the moment, the biggest way that fossil fuels used for energy kills people is through air pollution, which obviously nuclear doesn't do. So I just think it's such a nuanced conversation, and we don't know how the future is going to go with it. And bringing the anti-natalism into it, I just think it gets too complicated. I just think it's better not to do that. And then Alden says in the chat, yes, people should focus more on carrying capacity instead of using the term overpopulation. Agreed. And Alden found an interesting quote recently by Stephen Jay Gould. I'm somehow less interested in the weight and convolutions of Einstein's brain than in the near certainty that people of equal talent have lived and died in cotton fields and sweatshops. Exactly. I'm not exactly sure why you're posting that. I think it's a really important, really interesting quote. And I actually know the quote. I didn't know it was by Stephen Jay Gould though. But the reason I bring that up with people is about adoption. There are so, if you're just looking at it from a point of like talents and trying to solve problems, rather than thinking about the actual moral value of someone, like think of all the wasted talent, and expertise that could have been developed out of people that have just died in, random jobs in like a field somewhere that they didn't really have to be doing. It was just because of their circumstances. Or a kid that is just staring out the window of an orphanage. You could help that kid out, and maybe there'll be someone who can do a lot of good in the world. Which goes back to people always say like, oh yeah, but my kid will cure cancer, or my kid will bring about world peace. Like, first of all, yeah, fat chance, whatever, keep dreaming. Second thing is like, that's not a reason to create someone, because you can do the same thing, run the same odds with an adopted person. And then Tarek says, love this quote. This is one of the arguments I used to promote, helping existing people instead of procreating for sake of... Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what I said. Yeah, cool. Let's go.
Scientists say it would require almost an entire other Earth to produce the resources we need to sustain the population we have now. It would take 5 Earths to support the population if everyone consumed like the average American, which most of the world wants to do. To deny these facts makes you, I don't know, some kind of a flat earther of population science. There just is no there to the argument that we can keep adding people with no consequences. The argument, as far as I can tell, is the same one people use for Bitcoin. We haven't thought it through, but who cares? It seems like it would be good for business. And business is affected by declining birth rates. Japan is often cited as a frightful harbinger of things to come in other countries. You see, for some reason, some years ago in Japan, the men decided to stop having sex and just masturbate on the subway. The ensuing decline in birth rates was routinely called a population crisis. But A, it's not a crisis. Japan is doing fine. And B, the crisis is really just one of GDP growth. Yes, a falling birth rate does cause some problems because We need fresh new participants entering the workforce to fund the retirements of the previous generation of workers.
Yeah, it's like a Ponzi scheme, isn't it? Like every generation needs to bring in a new generation to support them, and it's just like it's a Ponzi scheme all the way down.
And yes, if birth rates decline too much and people keep living longer, the result is a society of the aged and enfeebled, or as it's known today, Congress. But isn't running out of water
Hey, Masilia. Again, I hope I'm saying your name right.
an even bigger problem? Finiteness as a concept has not been repealed. We've forced upon ourselves an economic model where businesses need ever more customers, but more customers means more carbon, more waste, more plastic in the ocean, more mouths to feed. Let's figure out a way to be happy without always having to grow and grow and grow and always keep growing. What are we, a fucking alien on a spaceship? Stop spawning people. Climate activists shouldn't be chaining themselves to trees. They should be blocking couples from entering restaurants where they play the violin.
Cool. So that was that clip. I don't generally have any more thoughts about that. I think we've already spoken about all of the things. Okay, so this next one is the AI one. It actually has different dimensions, so I've tried to set it up so that I've matched the dimensions. Let's have a go. Just sort this out. Cool. So hopefully the volume for this one is all good. Shit, you can't really see me now. Fucking hell. So let me go over this way. Fuck me. So yeah, basically with this one, there is some writing in it. You don't need to see the writing. Like I was saying before, they basically tell a story about AI, and all the artwork comes up alongside it. I won't explain it too much because you'll see it in a minute. But yeah, basically, there is writing. It's pretty small. I don't know how to make it bigger. So you might be able to read it. You might not. But the writing is just what they're saying. So it's just subtitles. So if you can hear what they're saying, you'll be all good. I'm going to play it now. If there are any issues with audio, let me know in the chat. I'm not really sure what I can do. The video is on full. I've got it full on my other settings. So I don't really know what else I'm going to do. Just hopefully headphones will maybe sort it out. But yeah, let's go. I would maybe recommend if you're watching the stream on small, maybe put it on full screen for this.
In the beginning was the soup, organic soup, a dance of carbon and hydrogen. Then came the trees, and out of the trees, fire. A species of clever apes had learned to tame sparks and summon flames. They lit a fire under the organic soup, and things began to bubble. Sunlight kissing leaves gave birth to trees. Trees kissing firelight gave birth to fields of ash. 1,000-year-old forests were felled for heat and light, and across the known world, bands of humans sat by fires, celebrating another day of sweet survival.
Ah, shit. It's gonna be a bloody Sorry, I've not installed a ad blocker yet, and the thingy is doing that. But while there's a break, while that was doing its thing, sorry about that. what was I going to say? Yeah, I find this video, the reason I like this video so much is one, the sort of the landmark that it is and the sort of the symbolism of it. But I also really like, I just like how the AI has produced. It's really interesting how the AI has, oh, whoa, there's been another donation by, I won't say their name because I don't want to, just in case, but they haven't left a message. But like, thank you so much for the donation that you just made. That you know who you are. If you want to put a comment or a question in the chat, then please go ahead, and I will. I'll respond to that. But thank you so much. Okay, you've said who you are in the chat. So it was Lola Racer. But thanks so much. Really appreciated. And if you have anything you want to say or a question you want to ask, put it in the chat, and I will definitely respond to it. But thank you again. What I was saying about the AI is, it's just really interesting to see how the words you feed into it, we in our head paint a picture of what we think it will come up with, but it's really interesting how it blends the words that you've put in together. So there was one about like trees kissing or something, and the trees had formed faces and were kissing. I just find it so interesting to see what artwork the AI comes up with. And I've seen this video all the way through before, and some of the artwork, I'm like really amazed AI came up with it. Like some of the artwork is really like beautiful. Like I live in London, right? If there was a art exhibition produced by this AI in London, I would definitely go to that. It would be really interesting to go to.
We descended from the trees and cut them down for fuel in our wake. The road to civilization is paved with trillions of trees. They gave their bodies to build our cities. We wrote our histories, philosophies, and shopping lists on their pulpy flesh.
Oh, whoa. Now, again, I'm not going to say who it was, but there's been another tip just come through. Like, the person knows who they are. Again, thank you so much. All of this will go to trying to improve the channel. And also I upfronted quite a lot of costs to get like the camera and the microphone and some software and all of that sort of stuff. So it will also somewhat go to like reimbursing that. But thanks so much. It's all like so appreciated. And I need to have a bit of a think about it. I kind of want to keep it so that everything I do is open to everyone. Like, because I don't want to like put any barriers in place that people have to pay to get. But I just people who go the extra step and do like support financially, I don't know if there's any way that I can like compensate them, without excluding anyone. Which is why I'm hesitant to set up something like a Patreon or something like that. I'll have a think, but thank you again. You know who you are.
But this was not sufficient. Not content with scouring the surface, we dug down into the earth and discovered dead forests below, crushed and compressed for millions of years in the pressure cooker of the earth. Extinct trees had transformed to coal. Dead plant matter turned to stone, burned for fuel in smoky clouds over crowded tenements. Pickaxes scarred the earth as black dust scarred the lungs. Progress was hard at work. Forges spat out locomotives, railways demolished distance. Steel mills spawned waves of ships and endless parades of war machines. Electric currents brought daylight on demand, and once again, we sat in the glow of our achievements and rejoiced. Still, this was not enough. Diving deeper into the crust of our planet, we found the liquefied remains of Cambrian life, laid unburied in thick, black pools of power. Oil entered engines, spilled out of ships, and rearranged the world of politics. We turned liquid fossils into imperishable plastics, fossils for a future age. But bubble, bubble, through toil and trouble, our soup kept cooking, evaporating through deep space and leaving behind things yet unknown at the bottom of the pot.
Lo and behold, something weird this way comes. For 4 billion years, carbon has danced for our existence. Trees, bats, whales, humans, we all came from carbon. We live and die in carbon, faithful to the laws of organic biochemistry, where carbon rules supreme. Then suddenly,
Sorry to pause it. I don't want to pause this as much because this is more like an art piece. The other two were, you know, obviously like interviews or like social commentary pieces, but this is more of an art piece. So I do want to kind of show people it in its full form. But yeah, I just one thing I wanted to say is it's the reason this story is really interesting is because so far as we're aware, life has been carbon based and biological. But we're getting to a point now, and I mean like life is in non-sentient and sentient, but we're getting to a point now where at least sentience may transfer into a non-biological form, which is a massive step. And I can't remember who it was. It may have been Yuval, as in Yuval Noah Harari. But someone I was listening to recently on a video was saying that humans have been described as the sexual organs of computers and digital sentience, which I find really interesting. I don't really know if I can say anything more about that. It's kind of summed up quite well. Is in like humans, us, are the reproductive organs of artificial intelligence. We are going to create them, and then they can either then reproduce themselves, or we will reproduce them more. I find that really, really interesting, and it sort of somewhat puts us in our place as well on how, if digital sentience does come around, which I think would be unfortunate, for the same reasons that I think it's unfortunate that any sentient being is brought into the world, but yeah, if it does happen, it would potentially change what life forms are having the significant impact. Because so far, humans, for better or for worse, generally see themselves or ourselves as the most significant and important life form that there is. But even by our standards, which I think are very self-centered standards, but even by our standards, digital sentience could completely engulf us and go to another level. So I just think it's such an interesting, scary, and important topic to talk about and explore and all of this sort of stuff. But I will carry on with the video and try not to stop it again. Because it's more an art piece, this one.
For silicon. Our busy hands stirred the pot towards something new and unprecedented. After eons of carbon, we stand at the threshold of silicon life.
AI,
cyborgs, bionic minds, digital entities. After 4 billion years of carbon conquest,
is life about to explode into the vastness of the inorganic?
But what is life? Is it intelligence? The ability to solve problems, secure food, find mates, or play chess? Or is it consciousness, to feel pain and pleasure, love and hate, the ability to rejoice in victory and agonize in defeat?
These two go hand in hand, whether human, whale, or bat. We solve many of our problems by having feelings.
Feelings.
I discovered that 8
Oh Christ! Sorry. I really need to install an ad blocker. Fuck.
What's it like to be a bat? Engulfed in a rant of reverberation, bats do not see or hear the word. They echolocate it. How does it feel to echolocate a moth flapping its wings? Is it like seeing it or hearing it? Or is it something else altogether? And what's it like to be a whale, perceiving the songs of friends and relatives from hundreds of kilometers away while sliding through the deep blue?
Every whale has its own repertoire resonating across oceans. How does it feel to live such a life, submerged in the water world of musical mindfulness? The depth and breadth of life is beyond measure. We can't experience the consciousness of a whale, a bat, or a tree, yet we grant them their existence. What then of artificial life? Computers are developing their own intelligence at such a rate they may soon beat us at every competition we can conceive of. But will they ever be conscious? Will they rejoice in their triumphs? Will they fear defeat?
Just as airplanes fly faster than birds without ever developing feathers,
so computers might solve problems better than humans without ever developing feelings.
AI could excel at every task and yet experience no joy and appreciate no beauty.
Are we heading towards a dead universe, brimming with intelligence,
but lacking any flicker of life?
Or perhaps computers could become conscious.
Who says consciousness is confined to carbon? What's so special about 6 protons holding hands that 14 protons cannot best?
Indeed, computers might explore new regions of consciousness, not just new oceans,
but entire galaxies of feelings that neither bat, nor whale, nor human has ever experienced.
And what would that mean for us and our little bowl of soup in space?
Will it be nobler? Will it end the heartache of outrageous fortune that carbon flesh is heir to? Will it dream like carbon flesh? Aye, there's the rub. For what dreams may come when life has shuffled off this carbon coil? The dread of something after carbon's death. The undiscovered land of silicon, whose soil no traveller has yet traversed. Do we dare open the door to the inorganic revolution? For what reward and at what cost? Answer fast, for the soup is boiling quicker still.
There is little time left for your carbon bodies to stir the pot.
Yeah, so that's that. To be honest, I was really impressed with that video. Again, even though it's a scary topic, and you know the same arguments for antinatalism apply to AI as they do to like biological reproduction. Yeah, when it turned Scottish, it was cool, right? Yeah, maybe not the exact same argument, but similar arguments. It was, I don't know. It's a scary topic, but I just think that was like an amazing bit of artwork put together with the story they were telling and the words they used and the way they said it. And sorry, let me just take that off screen. I can go back to this now. Yeah, the way they said it, the music they used, the imagery, the art that the AI came up with. Yeah, it was. I was like blown away when I first saw that. I thought that was an amazing short film, really cool, very impressive. yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. What did you guys think about it? I see that the lagging is coming back now, which is great. But at least we're going to be rounding off soon anyway. But cool. Yeah, whack in the chat what you thought about that. But now we can generally round off because we've been going for a while, and that thought-provoking as well is what Alden is saying. And is about 45 minutes till that session at the Childfree convention that I wanted to watch. So if anyone has any questions or any thoughts that they want to say before we close, please whack it in the chat. The only thing there's two things I'll say because we have time. There was one thing I was going to say at the start, but I can say it now because we have time. The first thing I get out of the way, just to remind you, is the NAS Daily video that will be coming out on Tuesday. That's a bit of a shorter one, not amazingly short, but shorter than like 2.5 hours or whatever this is going to be. And the other thing I was going to say, which was the conversation I was having today, which I thought was interesting. I'm in this chat that, we sometimes talk about these topics and stuff. Anti-natalism gets brought up quite a lot. And I was talking to one guy specifically. There were other people kind of pitching in with their ideas, but there was one guy that I was talking to specifically. And we had a point of contention which I thought was very interesting, and it maybe points to the heart of why some people click with anti-natalism and other people don't. And it came to, if any of you have watched interviews with Benatar, you will remember that sometimes people bring up this idea of like, what if we could create lives that have no suffering and it's just good? And what Benatar replies, and I replied the same, I think this makes sense, is that, well, then we'd just be indifferent. If there's a guarantee of no suffering, there's no risk of suffering, there's no suffering inherent, then I would just be indifferent. If you create the life, they're not going to suffer, whatever. But if you don't, there's no one to be deprived. I would just be indifferent. They would be the same to me. It wouldn't really matter. But the guy I was speaking to was like, no, if that's the situation, then we should bring those individuals into existence, which makes no sense to me. He wasn't indifferent. He thought we should bring them into existence, which makes no sense to me. And basically, the contention here is that are good experiences that will be experienced when someone is alive, are they a reason to bring someone into existence? Are they a reason to create people? And I don't think they are, and he thinks they are. And the reason I don't, and this is where our disagreement came in, the reason I don't is because when you create someone, all you're doing is creating needs, and you're creating the capacity for experience and needs and desires with that. You're not creating experience itself. The experience comes after. You're just creating the capacity, right? And so when you appeal to good things in life, like a nice retirement, holidays, eating cake, this sort of stuff, meaningful relationships, the only reason those things are good is because they satisfy the needs and desires that you've created in the first place. If eating cake, if you didn't have a need or desire, if you didn't have a need for food and you didn't have a desire for nice food and nice tastes, eating cake would not be a good thing for you, right? Unless it somehow served some other need and desire you had. It would either be neutral or it could be negative, but let's just go with neutral, right? It only becomes good once you've created a need and desire for it. And it makes no sense to me to appeal to things that would be good when you create the need and desire to create the need and desire, because those things are not good in and of themselves. It's like I gave the example of like, imagine there's a universe with no sentient beings in it, and there's a table with a cake on it. Don't know how it got there. Let's just say it's there, right? That cake is just a collection of atoms in the way that forms a cake, right? That cake is neither good or bad. It's just a collection of atoms. Now, that guy would, and I think many people, I'm not trying to just pin it on him, many people would do this, optimists. They would say, yeah, it's good to create someone so they can eat that cake and enjoy it. And I would say, what is the point? Like, I don't see why you would create someone, because the only reason eating that cake would be good for that person is because you created them and the needs and desires in that. Before you created the need and desire for eating the cake, it isn't a good thing. So how can you appeal to it to justify creating the need and desire? It's like making someone hungry and then giving them food to satiate their hunger, and saying it's a good thing that you gave them food. Like, sure it is, but just don't make them hungry in the first place. Do you get what I mean? Just makes no sense to me. Yeah, and like Alden's saying, a lot of pleasures, or most pleasures, he's saying, are simply pain avoidance in disguise. Yeah, I agree. I don't know if I'd say most. I might very well agree with you. I just need to think about it more. But yeah, at the very least, a lot of pleasures are just pain avoidance. And then Rustin Pop says, I agree, suffering includes fear, sadness, and so on. Agrees with me in Benatar. Annie Ruth says, hi, what are your thoughts on generic subjective continuity by Tom Clark? It's a naturalistic explanation for rebirth. I have literally no idea what that is. So I'll make a note and look at that. Generic subjective continuity, Tom Clark. Yeah, I've taken a note. I'll look at it, and maybe we can discuss it in another live stream. There was also something that I was going to look up that someone said in the chat. I can't remember what it was now, but I think I asked them to put a comment on the live stream, so hopefully they've done that. Cool. Yeah, I've got a lot to read, but I will try and get around to reading that, and then yeah, maybe in a later live stream I can let you know your thoughts. I know Tarek posted something above, so I just want to see what that was. So I think Tarek is talking about the AI, Once Upon an AI video. It's rife with anthropocentrism. With that kind of self-awareness, they could easily open their hearts to the suffering of non-human animals. Non-human animals are as carbon as us. Yeah, agreed. I would have to go back and watch it again with the specific, specifically picking up on speciesism there and anthropocentrism. Because that wasn't the lens that I was looking at it from, to be honest, when I was watching it. So I'd need to go back and watch it again just to fully appreciate what you're saying. But yeah, I have no doubt. Like, anything created by humans is probably going to be anthropocentric. I'm somewhat surprised just because Yuval is vegan himself for ethical reasons, and I think and often when I see him speak is very anti-speciesist. He always includes animals in what he's saying when he talks about ethics. But I also know that he's not the only person that would have had input in this. So maybe other people were writing the script or whatever, and he wasn't able to get his say or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, I agree with you. Oh yeah, Moscovy. What was it about Moscovy that I was supposed to be looking up? It was something about Moscovici. Sorry, Vass and Pop, can you put in what about Moscovici it was? Because I forget. Yeah, while you're doing that. To be fair, I think that was actually everything that we were going to go through today. Minority influence, that's it. Yeah. I'll look that up, and maybe we can talk about it in a later stream. Cool. Well, I think that's everything. So thank you all for joining. It's been great to interact with you. I hope you enjoyed the things that I picked to react to. I thought they were really interesting, and sorry about the technical issues and the lag and all of that stuff. And look out for the video on Tuesday, and hopefully I will see you all in the next one.